Chapter 1761, Battle God Puppet 3. The little stone glared at Su Luo as if she had failed to live up to expectations. That's because you don't know how formidable the battle god puppets were at their summit. Thus you would say something like this: as long as you feed it sufficient spirit force, I can guarantee 10 Dongfang Xian is not enough for it to destroy. But the little stone didn't say how much spirit force was required to feed it until it was full and short. It wasn't something Su Luo could afford to raise now. But Su Luo didn't know the little stone kept back some information he didn't say. She listened to the little stone's words and immediately became excited. 10 Dongfang Xian wasn't enough for it to destroy? Then how strong must it be? Su Luo's pair of eyes immediately shone with brilliant rays of light. All of a sudden, a thought flashed by, and immediately after, her eyes lit up. With a certain expression, she said to the little stone, "You knew since earlier that the battle god puppet's spirit force was about to be depleted, so force me to run in front of it? Deliberately made Dongfang Xian move against it, right? Otherwise, how could it be such a coincidence?" Dongfang Xian's palm strike just so happened to hit the battle god puppet's forehead. It may be assumed these were the result from the little stone's accurate calculations. The little stone had an appearance of that the child was teachable. Now you finally understand after much pondering. Su Luo was just about to tease him, but suddenly the little stone's expression changed. He urgently said to Su Luo, "Quickly, hurry and toss some food to the battle god puppet. Dongfang Xian is coming over." The battle god puppet was a model of one loyal to whoever fed it. When it had no food, whoever gave it food, then that person was its master. Dongfang Xian was able to chase over, very clearly. He had already guessed this was a battle god puppet. He must have thought of the secret within this. Therefore, the situation immediately became urgent. The battle god puppet was such a difficult to find in the world super hired thug. How could Dongfang Xian give up on it? If she let Dongfang Xian collect away the battle god puppet, then in the secret roaming dragon territory, the people on Su Luo's side would absolutely be completely massacred by him. Now was not the problem of Su Luo's safety alone. Rather, it was the safety and life of the four of them. What should I feed him? Su Luo looked at the little stone impatiently. Anything that has spirit force, for example, purple-colored crystal stone, black-colored crystal stone. The little stone looked at that battle god puppet laying there motionlessly. In a while, wait until Su Luo finds out the amount of food this glutton can eat. 3 lines appeared on his forehead. In passing, Su Luo grabbed several crystal stones that were laying around in her space and put it by the battle god puppet's mouth. Su Luo was just investigating her spirit knowledge on how to feed it. When, who would have imagined, the purple crystal stone had just touched its lips when it became nothing. Su Luo's eyes went straight from watching this. But after feeding it 5 pieces of purple-colored crystal stones, Su Luo discovered it was like throwing stones into a sea. There wasn't a bit of response. Because this battle god puppet is still laying there motionless with eyes open, with no aura of life on its body. Su Luo was very puzzled and turned to look at the little stone. The little stone wanted to say something, then turned his head arrogantly away. In a very fierce tone, he said, "Why are you looking at me like this? It's you who fed it too little, okay?" Su Luo suddenly felt speechless. Even if she fed too little, at least it should give her a reaction, right? But this battle god puppet didn't even react. This made her heart very uncertain. The little stone, seeing Su Luo didn't move, then indifferently added another sentence. "Dongfang Xian is about to come." Su Luo suddenly had no choice. She directly moved out the source stone she got from Dongfang Xian. Chapter 1762, Battle God Puppet 4. If you must know, this huge source stone contained more than 100 pieces of purple-colored crystal stones. Now, Su Luo didn't have time to attend to much, so she directly divided this source stone into 2, revealing the sparkling, bright purple rays of light from inside. When Su Luo placed the huge source stone at the corner of the battle god puppet's mouth, very quickly, that source stone disappeared without a trace. Su Luo unblinkingly stared at the battle god puppet, afraid of missing any traces of news on its face. Now, the situation had already reached such a dangerous degree. Dongfang Xian was about to kill over. The battle god puppet contained all of Su Luo's hope. If some mishap occurred now, then what would get snapped was Su Luo's life. But the battle god puppet still remained deathly still, didn't give any reaction to Su Luo. Just at this moment, Dongfang Xian's figure appeared in front of Su Luo. Dongfang Xian originally didn't think that what he hit was a battle god puppet, until Su Luo once again returned to the bottom of the lake. He then had a trace of suspicion. As a result, he pursued over. Now, when he saw that creature laying there peacefully, his eyes almost went vertical. He saw Su Luo, but right now, the most important thing in his heart wasn't to kill Su Luo, but rather to take out all the things he had that contained spirit force. His body flashed and rushed to in front of the battle god puppet. When he was full of hope as he placed the crystal stones he gathered at the side of the battle god puppet's mouth this time, the battle god puppet didn't even absorb it. Regardless of how respectfully Dongfang Xian offered the purple-colored crystal stone with both hands, standing there so awkwardly with waist bent. After a long time, Dongfang Xian saw that the battle god puppet was still indifferent, and the rage in his eyes became more fervent. His head slanted to glare at Su Luo on the side who he ignored before. His expression was savage, as if he wanted to eat her. "Did you feed it something?" Su Luo knew. This time, as long as she admitted it, she would immediately meet with a deadly blow. But if she said no, Su Luo lifted her eyes to look at the battle god puppet. At this moment, don't know which muscle was wrong with the battle god puppet, as it suddenly sat up with a whoosh sound. Su Luo looked in surprise at the battle god puppet that sat up with a bewildered expression. Dongfang Xian also suspiciously looked at that battle god puppet in puzzlement. At this moment, he still wasn't certain if Su Luo was suddenly controlling the battle god puppet. One only saw the battle god puppet's stiff neck slowly turn. That pair of large bell-like eyes were exploring and scanning in a straight line. When it saw Su Luo, its huge face suddenly laughed, revealing some teeth. An expression that was very foolish and very innocent. Su Luo was somewhat scared after being looked by it. Before Su Luo could react, the battle god puppet's gaze turned once again. This time, accurately and without mistake fixing on Dongfang Xian's body. Dongfang Xian felt his blood run cold from being stared by it. Because the battle god puppet's eyes were full of a bloody mist, really was very terrifying. Afterwards, the battle god puppet slowly stood up. Its emaciated skeleton gave off creaking sounds. Step by step, it walked towards Dongfang Xian. At this time, Dongfang Xian was somewhat apprehensive. He subconsciously retreated back. The battle god puppet pressured closer, step by step. Dongfang Xian retreated again and again, until he couldn't retreat anymore. The battle god puppet suddenly opened its mouth and gave off a sinister and strange laugh. That laugh would horrify people. At this time, Dongfang Xian had already realized this battle god puppet was already under Su Luo's control. He was very vexed in his heart, because the battle god puppet gave him a formidable, hard-to-defeat, powerful feeling. Chapter 1763, Hair-Raising 1. The battle god puppet approached him step by step, in the end, standing firmly in front of him. Before waiting for the battle god puppet to make a move, Dongfang Xian had already taken the initiative to strike first. Because he knew, if he waited for the battle god puppet to move first, then his chances of winning would be quite small. Dongfang Xian's ice blade hacked over, one after another. These ice blades that contained endless attack and destructive power had a huge restrictive force on Su Luo. However, what shocked him was, these ice blades were completely useless against the battle god puppet. Looking on as the ice blades flew over from all directions, the battle god puppet just stood there with its back straight, a motionless appearance. When the ice blades flew to his body, only a burst of pitter-patter of things hitting could be heard. When she looked again, those ice blades had become powder and floated to the ground. Not even a trace of scars was left on the battle god puppet's body. This was sufficient to prove Dongfang Xian's strongest attack wasn't able to harm the battle god puppet, even a bit. That's also to say, the battle god puppet was immune to Dongfang Xian's attack. The battle god puppet just stood there, a terrifying smile hanging at the corner of its eyes and mouth. The chill in Dongfang Xian's herd became even stronger. The restraining fear he had towards the battle god became even deeper. Dongfang Xian had continuously attacked nonstop, constantly releasing his biggest and most prideful moves. But even his strongest killing move still couldn't move the battle god puppet a tiny bit. It was like a pile of wood standing there, letting Dongfang Xian's attack land on its body. Precisely because the difference between the two sides was too large, so the battle god puppet's strength steadily suppressed Dongfang Xian. The more Dongfang Xian struck, the more fearful he became. Until the end, his heart had already sunk to the bottom. While Su Luo, who was watching this battle scene on the side, her mood was suddenly extremely good. The ancient people said correctly, fortunes rise and fall. Now, it's finally her turn. Before, she was at the end of her rope from being chased by Dongfang Xian. Now, having a battle god puppet, see how Dongfang Xian can still maintain his arrogance. Su Luo had both hands at her hips as she stood on the side happily, grinning as she watched the play that could make her feel great. Dongfang Xian knew the chances of him winning this battle today would be very low. With the battle god puppet present, if he continued to fight, don't even mention killing Su Luo, he wouldn't even be able to keep his own life. Thinking of this, Dongfang Xian's heart had already made a decision from the top 36 strategies. Su Luo looked at Dongfang Xian's eyes, which were twirling around. In a flash, she thought of what he was thinking. As a result, she loudly instructed the battle god puppet that was letting itself be beaten. Quickly strike. Don't let him run. The battle god puppet was one that followed whoever fed it. And Su Luo was the latest master he recognized. As a result, he very obediently swung his fist, ruthlessly smashing towards Dongfang Xian. Dongfang Xian, seeing the situation was wrong, immediately turned to run away. The battle god puppet's head already had a mission. How could it let him run? One only saw its fist, fast as lightning, as if carrying 10,000 caddies in weight with the sounds of thunder, ruthlessly smashing towards Dongfang Xian's chest. Dongfang Xian wanted to avoid it, but he still underestimated the battle god puppet's strength. Before Dongfang Xian could make the move to avoid, the fist had already flown to his chest area. One only heard a loud bang sound. With a crashing sound, Dongfang Xian's body was like a broken kite, flying backwards. The fist from the battle god puppet seemed to contain all the strength between heaven and earth. Dongfang Xian simply could not bear it. Chapter 1764. Hair-raising, 2. In mid-air, Dongfang Xian sprayed out a mouthful of blood, dyeing the ground red. But Dongfang Xian was ruthless to others, and even more ruthless to himself. Although he was seriously injured, he still spared no effort as his figure shrank down, using the strength from the battle god puppet's fist to quickly fly back. When Su Luo returned to her senses, she had already lost his figure in front of her eyes. Recalling the battle god puppet's strength, Su Luo wasn't worried. Only, she had a disdainful expression as she humped twice in ridicule. Want to run? See where you can run to. Then, Su Luo turned, wanting to command the battle god puppet. However, before Su Luo could say anything, she saw the battle god puppet's huge figure, with a clang sound, sit down on the ground. Su Luo's heart immediately had an ominous feeling. As a result, she hurriedly ran to in front of the battle god puppet. But when Su Luo arrived, she just so happened to see the battle god puppet close its eyes with difficulty and sink in a deep sleep. Su Luo hastily called it, but there was no response. Su Luo couldn't help but use her hand to push. Still no response. Su Luo had a sullen expression and helplessly asked the little stone, "What's going on?" The little stone scratched his head in embarrassment. In the end, he still stiffened his face and humped in an unpleasant tone and manner. "What's going on?" Haven't you already guessed it? How could it be like this? Su Luo simply couldn't imagine it. So many purple-colored crystal stones, in exchange for one strike from his fist towards Dongfang Xian. Wasn't this a bit too expensive? Even if purple crystal stones were piled into a mountain, she still couldn't afford to raise it, okay? The little stone humped twice. That could be considered a response. You knew since earlier? Although it was a question, but Su Luo's tone was very certain. I need to go in a closed-door cultivation. If there isn't anything important, don't casually disturb me. The little stone, especially arrogantly, turned his face away. Then, he quickly sat down cross-legged to start cultivating. Su Luo extended out a finger, but didn't know who she should poke. This simply almost angered her to death. So many crystal stones. So many crystal stones to exchange for one fist strike. Could she be more of a spendthrift? Su Luo scowled miserably, with a complicated expression as she stared at the battle god puppet that was in an unconscious state. Now what should she do? Feed it or not? Su Luo felt this was a very difficult decision. If she didn't feed it, then when Dongfang Xian searched over, based on Dongfang Xian's strength, he absolutely could steal the battle god puppet from her hands. You must know, the battle god puppet would follow whoever fed it, wouldn't be eternally loyal to her. If she fed it, Su Luo looked into her space. She suddenly had an urge to cry. Just when Su Luo was hesitating indecisively, outside, Dongfang Xian was also indecisive. Dongfang Xian quickly ran out. Just when he did his utmost to increase his speed to the max, he suddenly discovered that no one chased after him. Based on the enormous strength of the battle god puppet and Su Luo's petty mind, how could they not chase over? This matter simply appeared strange. Dongfang Xian's brain spun very fast, very quickly. He analyzed the critical point of the matter. It couldn't be that the battle god puppet didn't have any spirit force, right? But in Dongfang Xian's impression, the battle god puppet only made one strike. How could it not have enough spirit force? Although the possibility was very small, but Dongfang Xian was very experienced in seeking riches among danger. So he stopped his footsteps and hid to listen attentively. However, after listening, he really did hear a bit of the truth. Just because the battle god puppet hadn't chased over after a long time, therefore, Dongfang Xian became more and more suspicious. In the end, he straightforwardly turned and, walking quickly, went back inside. Chapter 1765. Hair-raising 3. When Dongfang Xian entered, Su Luo was still tangled about whether to feed this lug or not. Su Luo gave the battle god puppet a name, calling it Lug. When Dongfang Xian came in, he saw Lug laying straight on the ground, while Su Luo was circling around it. Such a great opportunity. How could Dongfang Xian miss it? One only saw his foot lift as he fiercely kicked towards Su Luo's back. Sensing the strong wind and killing intent coming from her back, this time, Su Luo didn't dodge. She flipped around and sent a column of flame towards Dongfang Xian. The column of flame blocked Dongfang Xian's attack, but it only blocked it for a very short period of time. Because Dongfang Xian was envious of this battle god puppet, so he had used a fatal strike. Even though he was heavily injured, he still wasn't someone Su Luo could defeat. Su Luo was almost trampled as she was kicked to the side. Dongfang Xian repeatedly laughed evilly. In his arms were purple and black crystal stones that he had hoarded for a long time. His movement was extremely fast as he fed these to the battle god puppet. Su Luo's heart was anxious to death. If Dongfang Xian succeeded, wouldn't Lug become his personal thug? Then the lives of everyone in her group of 4 would be controlled in Dongfang Xian's palm, right? This absolutely wasn't something Su Luo wanted to see. As a result, in spite of the pain from her body, Su Luo threw herself over. But it was already too late. The opportunity had quietly disappeared when Su Luo hesitated. The crystal stones in Dongfang Xian's hand rapidly disappeared. From the side, this showed one thing, that Lug had swallowed up these things that contained spirit force. Just when Su Luo was anxious enough to rush up and fight to the death with Dongfang Xian, the little stone's voice faintly sounded in Su Luo's mind. Slow. The little stone said, such a simple word. If I am any slower, then I'll be dead. Su Luo once again wanted to rush up. If you rush up, then that is what's called really dead. Don't you know the saying, leaving behind a green mountain, you won't have to worry there won't be firewood to burn? Don't know what's called light at the end of the tunnel, this phrase? The little stone reasoned calmly. What do you mean? There were many questions in Su Luo's heart, but her mood had already calmed down. The mysteries of the heavens must not be revealed. The little stone started to keep her in suspense. Then, regardless of how Su Luo asked, the little stone was literally like a stone in the toilet, smelly and hard. No matter what, she couldn't get any answer out of him. Dongfang Xian saw the crystal stones in his hand being absorbed by the battle god puppet, and immediately he was so overjoyed that he almost danced. Although the battle god puppet still hadn't woken up, but Dongfang Xian already believed the battle god puppet was an item in his purse. On top of the fact that before, he saw Su Luo feed the battle god puppet and it didn't immediately wake up, so he wasn't a bit anxious. His heart wasn't anxious, so he had idle time to deal with Su Luo. One only saw Dongfang Xian unhurriedly walk toward Su Luo. His footsteps were even, neither fast nor slow, as if he was strolling through the imperial court, so leisurely as if sitting around watching the flowers bloom and fall. His gaze had a trace of a mocking smile that wasn't a smile. His cold eyes cast sidelong glances at Su Luo. In his impression, at this time, Su Luo should be losing her head out of fear, or at least fly into a rage. But contrary to what he expected, Su Luo wasn't flustered nor flew into a rage. Rather, her expression was calm as water, without a single ripple. Dongfang Xian didn't believe it, such a dramatic change. Even he wouldn't be able to remain calm. So how could Su Luo really be so unconcerned? Chapter 1766. Emperor Blood Clotting Pill, Loathsome Girl. Now what do you have to say? Dongfang Xian had both arms crossed over his chest, looking down arrogantly and unhurriedly as he said this to Su Luo. Now, Dongfang Xian gave off the heroic and bold feeling of being able to control the weather in the world. Su Luo slanted a cold glance at him, but didn't speak. Although Su Luo didn't know what the little stone had up his sleeves, but she knew matters should take a turn for better, only that it wasn't time yet. So what she ought to do right now was to stall for time. Dongfang Xian saw Su Luo didn't reply, and the smile at the corner of his mouth became even deeper. Looks like heaven still looks after me. The final victory is still in my hand. What do you say? Really? The corner of Su Luo's mouth hooked into a ghost of a smile, with an unconcerned expression. You don't think so? Dongfang Xian pressed in step by step, his body bending down to face Su Luo. The two were very close to each other, Dongfang Xian's burning hot breath spraying on Su Luo's face. Su Luo was so furious in her heart that she was itching to rip Dongfang Xian into pieces. But she still didn't reveal it on her face and only smiled faintly. Whatever delusions you want to have, then have it. Why ask me? Dongfang Xian almost got internal injuries from being angered by Su Luo. Okay, since you, this loathsome girl, won't drink when asked and instead want a drink penalty, then don't blame me for being merciless. Dongfang Xian's long fingers pinched Su Luo's throat. His speed was very fast, so fast that Su Luo didn't have time to react before her body was confined and she couldn't move. Take out all those medicine. Before Dongfang Xian moved, he finally recalled a very important matter. He finally remembered that Su Luo had a batch of Emperor blood clotting pills. It was a miraculous drug that could save a dead person and grow meat on bones. Emperor blood clotting pill? Su Luo coldly smiled. Her heart was very certain, so she deliberately stalled for time. Do you want your neck or the Emperor blood clotting pills? Dongfang Xian smiled sinisterly. That smile was strange and treacherous. Emperor blood clotting pill. Su Luo smiled coldly. You're certain you want it? Take it all out. Dongfang Xian pressured tightly. Su Luo's sleeves flipped over. A bottle of Emperor blood clotting pills appeared in her hand. One only saw her smile faintly. Since you want it so much, then take it. Su Luo stuffed the emperor-ranked blood-clotting pills that were priceless treasures into Dongfang Xian's hand without the slightest hesitation. But because Su Luo stuffed it into his hand too straightforwardly, so when Dongfang Xian received it, his whole face was full of suspicion. He hesitated and was uncertain. His gloomy and cold gaze unblinkingly stared at Su Luo. Su Luo only smiled faintly. Now can you let go? Seeing Su Luo's calm and unhurried appearance, Dongfang Xian's expression became increasingly bad. His brows were wrinkled tightly as he stared fixedly at Su Luo and questioned in a cold tone. Is there some problem with these emperor-ranked blood-clotting pills? What possible problem could it have? Su Luo pretended to be puzzled. Since you don't like it, then give it back to me. Saying this, Su Luo stretched out her hand, wanting to snatch the emperor-ranked blood-clotting pills back. But the treasures that were already in hand, how could Dongfang Xian take it out? He avoided Su Luo's hand, then poured out a blood-clotting pill and stuffed it into Su Luo's mouth. You come try it. Not giving Su Luo a chance to speak, without explanation, he stuffed the pill into Su Luo's mouth, forcing Su Luo to swallow the pill. Su Luo was choked until she coughed loudly. She resisted with great difficulty, but had no way out. She could only look on helplessly as the pill entered her throat. Dongfang Xian's eyes stared fixedly on Su Luo's expression, afraid of missing even a tiny bit of change. Su Luo sat down leaning against the wall, loudly gasping for breath. Her hair was in disarray, cutting an extremely sorry figure. Chapter 1767. Won't amount to a hill of beans. Dongfang Xian stared unwaveringly at Su Luo, looking at the expression on her face, afraid of missing a thread of detail. Su Luo leaned against the wall, taking large breaths, but her face didn't change a bit. Time gradually passed, and Su Luo's face still didn't change, and Dongfang Xian's worried heart also calmed down slowly. In the end, Dongfang Xian started to howl with laughter. Loathsome girl, looks like this bottle of medicine really is a good thing. Since it's like this, then I'll kindly accept it. While Dongfang Xian howled with laughter, he stuffed the bottle into his chest pocket. Su Luo's brows slightly wrinkled where no one could see. Seeing Su Luo's expression was unaffected, Dongfang Xian's laughter became even more complacent. There are also other medicinal pills, right? Take it all out. Dongfang Xian's voice was deep and sinister, extending his evil clutches towards Su Luo. Other things? What other things do you want? Su Luo's brows were tightly knotted. Medicinal pills, crystal stones, and also the treasures you got from drawing prizes. Dongfang Xian seemed to be very familiar with this matter. Su Luo coldly slanted him a glance. She remembered that when she was drawing prizes in the first challenge, Dongfang Xian wasn't at the scene. It could be seen that Li Aochen must have told him, going to give or not. Dongfang Xian smiled evilly, walking towards Su Luo, step by step. Then, he leaned over, looking down at her from above. If I said I won't give it to you? Su Luo smiled faintly, seemingly unconcerned. Dongfang Xian rubbed his chin and smiled coldly. Don't give? Then, his lecherous gaze stared at Su Luo, full of deep meaning. What do you want to do? Su Luo coldly slanted him a glance. Nothing, if you don't give. I'm afraid your virginity. While Dongfang Xian smiled sinisterly, he also extended his claws. Dongfang Xian, you dare! Su Luo somewhat anxiously yelled out loud. In here, there really isn't anything that I Dongfang Xian won't dare to do. Dongfang Xian's smile was demonically alluring and full of malice. Didn't you harm Yao Yao until her reputation was destroyed? Then I'll let you taste this feeling. Just at this time, in Su Luo's mind, came the little stone's voice. The little stone said a sentence, and this sentence seemed to reverse Su Luo's predicament. Su Luo pretended to panic and stuffed all the crystal stones and medicinal pills into Dongfang Xian's hand. You want it, then take it. Take it all. Before she finished speaking, Su Luo's figure quickly retreated backwards. Dongfang Xian saw Su Luo run away so quickly. A bad premonition suddenly appeared in his heart. But when he reacted, this matter was already too late. Now, a thunderous snarl came from behind Dongfang Xian. Dongfang Xian subconsciously turned his head back. Afterwards, he saw the battle god puppet standing straight up behind him, pair of deep green eyes staring at him, shooting out bloodthirsty, savage rays of light. Dongfang Xian's heart immediately lifted up. There was still a faint trace of a lucky feeling in his heart. One must know that this battle god puppet had absorbed a lot of crystal stones belonging to him that had spirit force. It shouldn't move against him, right? At this time, this same question also appeared in Su Luo's head. But compared to Dongfang Xian, Su Luo was a lot more blessed, because the little stone told her the truth. The little stone's voice was faint but very clear. Dongfang Xian is too ridiculous. Before the battle god puppet had used up all its spirit force, he actually fed it more food. Could it be he still thinks this battle god puppet will become his? Su Luo, hearing this, directly sprayed out a mouthful of laughter in her heart. Dongfang Xian's luck was really bad, right? There actually was this kind of thing. Chapter 1768, Battle God Puppet 1. Because the little stone's words clearly told her, Dongfang Xian had fed all the crystal stones on his body to the battle god puppet. But the result was to make wedding clothes for other people, and this other person was Su Luo. As long as she thought of this truth, Su Luo had the urge to burst out into laughter. Now, the battle god puppet had already walked to behind Dongfang Xian, step by step. It was only a step away from him. Dongfang Xian's expression became very ugly. Shock, horror, and disbelief flashed by in his mind one by one. Battle god puppet's expression was gloomy. Its face was even more murderous looking. Dongfang Xian, seeing the situation was wrong, immediately turned, wanting to run. But it was already too late. One only saw the battle god puppet's long arm make a grab, and Dongfang Xian was seized firmly in its hand. His pair of legs stretched out, struggling helplessly. He couldn't use a bit of strength. Su Luo, looking at this, her heart was extremely delighted, had the delighted feeling of fortune rising and falling. The battle god puppet lifted Dongfang Xian, both hands holding him up high. Then it used all its strength to toss him. One could only hear a burst of wind whistle past. Dongfang Xian's body flew backwards at a fast speed. Bang! A clear sound of something heavy landing on the ground sounded. Dongfang Xian fell down far, far away, blood spraying out wildly from his mouth. He wanted to crawl up, but because of being seriously injured, he had no way to do so and only struggled painfully. It was just like before. After using this move, the battle god puppet foolishly stood there motionless. Then its figure swayed, and its butt directly sat on the ground. So many crystal stones could only maintain its energy for one move, and nothing more. Su Luo helplessly glared at the battle god puppet. Then she turned and immediately ran towards Dongfang Xian, directly sending out attack after attack. Such a good opportunity was fleeting. She couldn't let Dongfang Xian run away again. But Dongfang Xian being injured was only being injured, his strength was still very good. Battling with Su Luo, he could still gain the upper hand by a little. In one inattentive moment from Su Luo, he slipped away. Watching the quickly fleeing Dongfang Xian, she then turned her head back to look at the battle god puppet sitting on its butt. A thin line of perspiration appeared on Su Luo's forehead. She thought a bit, but in the end, she still ran to the battle god puppet's side. At this time, Su Luo didn't have any more crystal stones, but she still had things that contained spirit force. Because during the first challenge, she got a lot of rewards since she almost emptied out the entire shelf. Su Luo took out 3 treasures and fed it to the battle god puppet. As a result, this thing came back to life again. When Su Luo brought the battle god puppet to chase over, up ahead, Dongfang Xian's figure had already disappeared. But Su Luo wasn't a bit discouraged. Because the battle god puppet's skills to trace and its speed was extremely awesome. Su Luo simply stopped walking by herself. Her footsteps were graceful as she spun in place and got on a battle god puppet's shoulder. Then, she gave the order for the battle god puppet to pursue Dongfang Xian. Fortune sure enough takes turns. Dongfang Xian ran very fast, so fast as to be astonishing. In fact, if there was time, what he ought to do was to sit down and heal his injuries. But now, the situation wouldn't give him time to heal. Before, Dongfang Xian ran to chase after Su Luo, but now, everything was reversed. Dongfang Xian cut a sorry figure like the target of scorn. His speed was so fast, simply hadn't seen it in his lifetime. Dongfang Xian didn't run back using the original route because there were soldiers pursuing behind him. While up ahead, Nangong Liyun was like a tiger watching his prey. Therefore, since it's already broken, he simply rushed towards the front of the Black Lake. Crossing the Black Lake, up ahead was the maze. Such a huge maze stood in front of his eyes. Chapter 1769, Battle God Puppet 2. The earth yellow-colored wall was a dazzling sight. Don't know what material was used to create it. It was hard and firm. Even if Dongfang Xian was to slap down, he still wouldn't be able to leave a trace. Dongfang Xian looked at the entrance in front, turned his head to look, and discovered that Su Luo, sitting on the battle god puppet's shoulder, was rushing over. Dongfang Xian didn't have time to think and raised his speed to the fastest. In a flying speed, he rushed in like a bullet. Su Luo could faintly see a black dot hesitate outside the maze. In the blink of an eye, that little dot disappeared. Now, she became anxious. She pulled the battle god puppet and, in a loud voice, ordered, quickly rush in. Any later, and it will be too late. Because Su Luo knew that the roads inside the maze were complicated. As long as you went in, wanting to snatch Dongfang Xian out would be very difficult. Dongfang Xian knew about Elder Ancestor Mo's matter. If she let him leave the secret roaming dragon territory alive, it would be very detrimental to Su Luo. So, no matter what, Su Luo must intercept Dongfang Xian inside secret roaming dragon territory. As a result, Su Luo guided the battle god puppet to move forward quickly. But when Su Luo arrived at the maze after urging the battle god puppet on, Dongfang Xian's figure had already disappeared up front. Hateful! Su Luo cursed in a low voice. Up ahead, the roads in the maze crisscrossed, repeatedly overlapping. How could she find a real road among such complicated and tangled paths? This was a very difficult task. Su Luo couldn't help but lower her head to ask the battle god puppet. But the battle god puppet, besides being able to consume large amounts of crystal stones and that terrifying move, it didn't seem to have any other uses. The technique to follow someone's trail and others, don't even think it could do it. Su Luo sighed, depressed. She lifted her head and looked at the 3 directions up ahead. 3 directions, 3 different roads. In the end, which one should she walk? No one could give Su Luo the correct answer. Just walk forward. Su Luo closed her eyes. When she opened them again, her eyes were bright. They had a faint trace of seriousness. The path ahead was full of twists and turns before another fork with 3 roads. Every time, Su Luo would choose the path directly in front, following it to the end. But along the way, there wasn't a trace of Dongfang Xian's figure. Where was Dongfang Xian right now? Ever since he ran into the maze to hide, Dongfang Xian was like a dry fish that traveled to the bottom of the sea. His life got a breather. Su Luo went forward all the way, but Dongfang Xian didn't go forward for long. After the 10th fork in the road, he stopped. He sensed the aura around him and discovered there wasn't any aura of living things. So he sat down cross-legged and entered the state of healing. So no matter how fast Su Luo's speed, she only brushed by Dongfang Xian. Moreover, the distance between the two became further and further apart. Time passed day after day. Because Su Luo couldn't find Dongfang Xian, she became fretful. Because Dongfang Xian had enough time, his internal injuries healed very quickly. Although he didn't completely recover, he still recovered about 80% of his strength. This day, Dongfang Xian slowly opened his eyes. His gaze was sinisterly cold and ruthless. Su Luo, A gentleman's revenge. 10 years is not too late. Dongfang Xian mumbled this to himself. Now, Su Luo had the battle god puppet protecting and assisting at her side. Temporarily, he couldn't move her. But there would be a day when he would let Su Luo die very miserably. Dongfang Xian turned and got up. He was preparing to leave this maze immediately because this maze gave him a very bad feeling. However, when he was preparing to leave, a cold figure appeared in front of Dongfang Xian. Nangong, Liyun, seeing that handsome figure that was full of deterrence force, Dongfang Xian's figure became stiff in an instant. Chapter 1770, Battle God Puppet 3. Just like he said, Nangong Liyun's pair of beautiful eyes that was ice-cold, black like ink was fixed on his face. Nangong Liyun's footsteps were firm and powerful as he walked towards Dongfang Xian, step by step. At this moment, Nangong Liyun's body gave off a formless deterrence power, sharp and strict like an exceptional, cold, unsheathed sword, piercing people's ears with droning sounds, making it impossible for people not to feel chills in their hearts. Dongfang Xian subconsciously retreated a step. After retreating a step, he realized he just did something foolish. As a result, he stood firmly again and gave a light cough to cover up the embarrassment from just now. Nangong Liyun's thick sword-like brows rose up slightly. Step by step, he approached Dongfang Xian. His gaze was cold as a deep pool, as he said in an icy tone, "Where is Luo?" Mentioning Su Luo, the rage in Dongfang Xian's heart soared up immediately. He gave a cold jeer. "You're asking now? Don't you think it's too late?" Nangong Liyun's eyes suddenly darkened, flashing with cold light. His long arm extended and grabbed Dongfang Xian by his collar and lifted him up. His icy eyes exploded out with boiling, killing intent. "Speak!" The full of deterrence power angry shout shook Dongfang Xian's brain until he became stupid. A hard-to-subdue, terrified shock appeared in Dongfang Xian's eyes. If he didn't remember wrong, before, when he departed from Nangong Liyun, he was still commander rank. How was it that in the blink of an eye, his strength had soared so quickly? Dongfang Xian knew his own strength has been restored to 80%. He was at least at the middle of saint rank, but he was actually grabbed by Nangong Liyun. In the end, what happened? Could it be that not only was Nangong Liyun not killed by the giant dragon, he actually profited from that disastrous opportunity? The more Dongfang Xian thought about it, the more shocked and regretful he became. In the end, he directly stared at Nangong Liyun. "Where is the giant dragon? You think it still has a chance to live?" Nangong Liyun's arm tightened as he gave a cold humph. Dongfang Xian felt as if his throat was cut off. A sudden suffocating feeling of nearing death arose. This feeling terrified him and made him panic. "Speak!" Nangong Liyun exploded out with a shout, his tone full of impatience. A cold meaning flashed through Dongfang Xian's lowered eyes. Based on strength, he already wasn't Nangong Liyun's opponent. If he didn't take some steps, then today he would die here. He had just escaped from Su Luo's pursuit. Immediately, he landed in Nangong Liyun's killing site. Dongfang Xian felt that his luck was extremely bad. In the end, what could he do to mess up Nangong Liyun's calmness and logical reasoning? To tear a hole in his spirit? A light flashed through Dongfang Xian's eyes very quickly. He had an idea. "You really want to know about Su Luo's news?" Dongfang Xian pushed Nangong Liyun's hand away. Nangong Liyun's black pupils narrowed, staring at him unblinkingly, not saying a word. In fact, Su Luo, Dongfang Xian gave a light sigh. In fact, how is Su Luo right now? Even I don't know. Hope this girl is worthy of heaven's help. What happened? Nangong Liyun's expression was still calm, but the veins on his arms and the wide sleeves exploded out. Clearly, he was extremely angry. With this start, Dongfang Xian started to make up vivid lies. He told about Su Luo being chased into the bottom of the Black Lake. His words were 90% real and 10% fake, making it hard for people to find a hole in it. When he was describing the story, after Su Luo went into the Black Lake, she encountered the battle god puppet's pursuit with intent to kill. Then there wasn't an after. Chapter 1771. Explode 1. You mean? Nangong Lian fumed with rage as he said this, stressing each word. That girl, I reckon, is already a lass. Dongfang Xian slowly sighed. Really? Nangong Lian smiled coldly. It was sinister and terrible. Not waiting for Dongfang Xian to say the next word, Nangong Lian's hands quickly flipped over, forming a complicated hand seal. And these hand seals filled with black energy came from all directions, condensing into a firm and strong wall of swords, trapping Dongfang Xian firmly inside. The biting cold wind whistled past, huge snow freezing over everything, turning it into an area of whiteness. Inside, there was only Dongfang Xian's figure. Before Dongfang Xian returned to his senses, the swords in all four directions shot towards him all at once. At that time, Dongfang Xian had used this move to trap Su Luo, making it impossible for her to escape. Now, fortune changed. He finally experienced the suffering from this scene. Numerous snow-white blades like sharp fangs whistled over. Dongfang Xian used all his strength to resist. The two experts at the top of the world fought against each other. Inside this sealed room of wind knives, the intensity of the fight was marvelous. For a period of time, it was hard to determine the victor. After 10 moves, the result was clear. Nangong Lian was still as handsome as before. His hair was neat as usual. His clothing wasn't a bit in disarray. In contrast, one only saw that right now. Dongfang Xian's hair was in a mess, clothing damaged, face white as paper. Although he did his best to seem calm, however, his slightly trembling feet revealed the shock in his heart. Dongfang Xian stared at Nangong Lian, eyes full of disbelief. When did Nangong Lian become so strong? Actually able to occupy the upper hand so steadily? Dongfang Xian discovered he simply didn't have the confidence to defeat Nangong Lian. Nangong Lian smiled coldly. His clearly jointed fingers clenched his neck, gaze like a knife. As matters stand, still won't speak the truth. Dongfang Xian's mouth hooked into a ghost of a smile. You really don't think that like this, you will have victory within grasp? Nangong Liuyun's eyes had a cold light. Just at this time, suddenly, a thread of seriousness appeared on Dongfang Xian's face. Soon after, his body slowly started to swell up. His body was like a balloon, starting to expand. At the same time, behind Dongfang Xian's figure, a faint, huge dragon figure could be seen. Nangong Lian suddenly had a bad feeling. In the next instant, he wanted to squash this danger before it sprouted. However, before he could move, the spirit force around Dongfang Xian's body was so rich as to give off sizzling sounds, making everything thoroughly disordered and almost about to explode. Such a strong spirit force. Nangong Lian sensed danger and subconsciously retreated. At this moment, around Dongfang Xian was a wild and strong force. He lifted his hands high, howling towards the sky. On the wake of this howl, the entire wall of swords had traces of collapsing. Nangong Liuyun's hand quickly formed seals. One after another, white light shot towards that wall of swords, helping to maintain that wall of swords in its complete condition. But with the passing of time, Nangong Liuyun felt the pressure become bigger and bigger. Dongfang Xian actually had such a trump card in his hand? Nangong Liuyun's brows were tightly knotted. With the passing of time, Dongfang Xian's strength was still soaring. In the end, one only heard the sound of an explosion. Crashing sounds, a countless number of wind swords disintegrated into nothingness in the air. Frantic spirit force escaped in all four directions. The air sizzled with pitter-patter sounds. At this time, Dongfang Xian's head was lowered, looking ahead. Chapter 1772, Counterattack 1. His face was full of scarlet wisps of blood. That pair of eyes with two ignited raging flames really looked terrifying. Soon after, his gaze was fixed on Nangong Liuyun's face. Momentarily, All around was quiet. So quiet that one could hear the sound of wind blowing and leaves landing. Suddenly, the corner of Dongfang Xian's thin lips revealed a cold smile. In the depths of his eyes was a bloodthirsty and cold meaning. Nangong Luyun, next year today is the anniversary of your death. Nangong Luyun's brows were slightly wrinkled. If his senses weren't wrong, then currently, Dongfang Xian's strength was already at the summit of Saint Stage. Really was a metamorphosis, time and time again, stronger than before. However, the corner of Nangong Luyun's mouth pulled as he laughed out loud. His gaze was serene like a deep pool, coldly shooting a glance at Dongfang Xian. You're certain you can win? Then try it. Dongfang Xian hadn't finished speaking, and his hand had already formed seals. One after another, fatal moves hacked towards Nangong Luyun. Momentarily, strong hit against strong. All around, one half of the world was ice and snow, the other half was a stormy world, as if the two worlds were colliding together. For a short period of time, the weather was bitterly cold. An icy wind that was bitterly cold blew all around on the wall that was about to collapse. It was as if at any time, it would crumble. Following the gradual passing of time, bit by bit, the smile at the corner of Dongfang Xian's mouth became more reckless. Because the ice and snow world that he controlled, its range was slowly expanding, silently extending towards Nangong Luyun's area. Nangong Luyun, in contrast, right now, his face was calm as water, but his bright and clear forehead was covered in a layer of perspiration. His face was pale without a thread of blood. From his tightly clenched teeth, it revealed how great the pressure he was under. Dongfang Xian pressed forward step by step, while Nangong Luyun retreated step by step. This was the so-called the disappearance of the distance between them. The closer Dongfang Xian pressed forward, the more imposing his manner. In contrast, the world of storm Nangong Luyun controlled got smaller as he retreated step by step. The corner of Dongfang Xian's mouth became bigger and bigger. His proud appearance was full of sneering and disdain at Nangong Luyun. Nangong Luyun's gaze was like the abyss, calm as water without a ripple. Sneer! Dongfang Xian jeered. One only saw his hand pressed down with pressure. One only saw a white light flash by, and the ice and snow world Dongfang Xian controlled became a lot larger again. It swallowed a large part of Nangong Luyun's world of storm. Nangong Luyun, now you are on the verge of death. Then let me tell you the truth. Dongfang Xian faced the sky and laughed out loud. Maybe you think that even if you die, it'll be fine because Su Luo would be waiting for you down there and you guys can meet again? Ha! I'll tell you the truth. In fact, Su Luo didn't die. But a pity you are about to die. You guys are preordained to be separated by fate. With this kind of result, Dongfang Xian was very happy. He even decided in the future that when Su Luo ended up in his hands, he wouldn't let her die so easily. Because he didn't want this pair of lovers to meet underground. He wanted them to be separated in life and death. Dongfang Xian gave a provocative laugh, but his reply was Nangong Luyun's silence. But Dongfang Xian's laugh became more unrestrained. Because he saw the perspiration on Nangong Luyun's forehead form a droplet as it rolled down. Not only that, right now, his entire body seemed to be fished out of the bottom of the river, damp and cutting a very sorry figure. Nangong Luyun, time to leave your last words. Dongfang Xian used the victor's attitude of looking down from above and said this proudly. Chapter 1773, Counterattack 2. However, although Nangong Luyun retreated under the shadows of the approaching footsteps, he was still too disdainful to even look at Dongfang Xian. In Nangong Luyun's eyes, right now, Dongfang Xian was merely a jumping clown. Dongfang Xian saw his own clown-like appearance of jumping up and down in Nangong Luyun's pair of clear and penetrating eyes, and his heart was enraged. He had an even stronger feeling of inferiority. The extremely angry Dongfang Xian concentrated all the spirit force in his body and smashed it all towards Nangong Luyun's forehead in one hit. But at this time, Nangong Luyun smiled faintly. Just when Dongfang Xian's fist was about to smash over, one only saw a strange hand extend out from Nangong Luyun's back, blocking that violent hit from Dongfang Xian. Dongfang Xian stared blankly, looking in disbelief at Nangong Luyun. Nangong Luyun smiled coldly. Think this is inconceivable? Dongfang Xian nodded his head, stupefied. He couldn't believe why the move he was most proud of would so easily be blocked by Nangong Luyun. Didn't you just enter the Saint rank? Dongfang Xian felt this was inconceivable. He remembered it very clearly. Nangong Luyun only broke into the Saint rank after entering the secret dragon roaming territory. How could he become so powerful so suddenly? Nangong Luyun suddenly laughed lightly. His expression was arrogant as he looked down from high above. Entering the Saint rank? I haven't been that rank since long ago. Finished speaking, one only saw him lift up his right palm. The bones in his hand and fingers were clear, long and white, so beautiful as to be unimaginable. But now, this right hand flashed with a white light, as if full of unimaginable strength, as if endless strength was spreading out from the center of this palm. Divine right hand? Dongfang Xian's voice carried a trace of trembling. He lifted his head up and stared at Nangong Luyun in disbelief with a dumbstruck expression. Because he never imagined that the divine right hand, the shadow of that huge dragon, was most proud of would end up in Nangong Luyun's hand. In the end, what happened? Dongfang Xian's heart was worried, anxious, and angry. His pair of eyes was like ignited flames, glowering at Nangong Luyun and spitting out fire. Nangong Luyun gave a light laugh. There was no trace of cutting a sorry figure on his clean and handsome face. It was already restored to the normal state of handsome indifference. Rest assured, I will definitely go find Su Luo. The corner of Nangong Luyun's mouth revealed a demonic wanton sneer. Divine right hand was indeed the shadow of the huge dragon's trump card, but when he got rid of the shadow of the huge dragon, by chance, it was passed on to him. This helped him profit from disaster, giving him endless benefit. Seeing Dongfang Xian again, he deliberately revealed a weak self to the enemy. Because he knew Dongfang Xian's mouth was very hard. Using tough methods might not be able to get Su Luo's information from him. As a result, he deliberately hid his cards. Just when Dongfang Xian was most proud, brash, and arrogant, he finally told the truth about Su Luo's news. You hateful! Dongfang Xian finally realized Nangong Luyun's intentions and fiercely cursed him in his heart. Cursed Nangong Luyun for being shameless. But as matters stood, what could he do? He had already proudly made public the news pertaining to Su Luo. There is completely no purpose for you. Therefore, go peacefully, my first senior brother. Nangong Luyun's tone was light and slow as if fluttered by in a careless manner. He closed his eyes. What appeared was images of their friendship being from the same sect. But when he opened his eyes again, the bottom of his eyes were clear without a ripple. Not a trace of his mood could be seen. Divine right hand! Nangong Luyun shouted vigorously. Chapter 1774, Counterattack 3. Soon after, under the situation where Dongfang Xian couldn't avoid it, his body that had mostly recovered with great difficulty was beaten back into a scarecrow. Powerless to resist, he was tossed back. One only heard a burst of crashing sounds. Dongfang Xian smashed over. The originally hard-as boulder's gold-colored wall was like tofu pieces, breaking into fine powder. In the end, Dongfang Xian's body landed heavily on the ground. And immediately, a huge human-shaped pit appeared in the even surface of the ground, while Dongfang Xian's body laid in the ground, forming a strange posture. An indifferent light smile appeared in Nangong Luyun's eyes. He slowly walked forward with a steady pace until he appeared in front of Dongfang Xian. His body crouched down as he mockingly looked at Dongfang Xian laying in the pit. His tone was clear, but carried traces of endless mockery. This is your last trump card? It's only SOO. Right now, Dongfang Xian was extremely indignant. He bit his lower lips until a line of dark red blood appeared. The blood followed the corner of his mouth and flowed down. Originally full of confidence, originally it was all within his grasp, originally he was the victor. But Nangong Liuyun's appearance ruthlessly crushed his beautiful dream. Dongfang Xian used strength to clench his hand in a fist at his sides. His grip was very tight. His pair of bloodshot eyes stared fixedly at Nangong Liyun, wishing to glare out a bloody hole in his body. At this time, the silent person had been changed to Dongfang Xian. An indifferent smile hung at the corner of Nangong Liyun's mouth. Now you have the time to leave your last words. Dongfang Xian's fists clenched even tighter. He used force to wipe away the bloodstain at the corner of his mouth and lifted his eyes. Gaze cold as ice, he's staring fixedly at Nangong Liyun. You really want to kill me? Dongfang Xian's smile was cold and ruthless, carrying a trace of frosty air. How could it be false? Nangong Liyun's tone was even really asking to be spanked. Dongfang Xian saw real killing intent in Nangong Liyun's eyes. This represented that Nangong Liyun's heart was completely set on killing him. And people that Nangong Liyun targeted, almost all of them had passed away. But scoff! Dongfang Xian suddenly gave a cold sneer. His gaze was cold as the stars, casting a mocking glance at Nangong Liyun. I dare to bet if you know the truth. Not only won't you kill me, in contrast, you will save me. When Dongfang Xian said this, his expression was very proud, the confidence coming from the bones. But he still gave people a serious and grave feeling. Nangong Liyun's brows wrinkled slightly, because his sixth sense had always been accurate. For example, Nangong Liyun's hand formed seals. A formidable and sharp wind blade directly flew to the edge of Dongfang Xian's neck. As long as Nangong Liyun moved his fingertip, the wind blade would cut open Dongfang Xian's neck, killing him on the spot. Dongfang Xian's eyes narrowed, but his smile still remained as he coldly humphed. If you kill me, then you guys don't even think of leaving this secret roaming dragon territory. When Dongfang Xian said this, he was all smiles, full of confidence. If it was Su Luo, then she definitely wouldn't believe it, but it was Nangong Liyun. His deep gaze stared at Dongfang Xian, eyes like pitch-black vortex. It made Dongfang Xian's head ache painfully. Just when Dongfang Xian was distracted, Nangong Liyun had finished searching his brain. And the result of Nangong Liyun's search made his brows tighten even more. It seemed Dongfang Xian didn't lie. Chapter 1775. Suddenly, everything becomes clear. 1. Before, he had a fortuitous encounter and got the huge Dragon Shadow's inheritance. As long as Dongfang Xian dies, then the entire secret roaming dragon territory would close. Then he and Luo Girl would never be able to go out and see the light of day again. Right now, Dongfang Xian still didn't know that his memories had been searched by Nangong Liyun just now. He was still trying to sell the climax of the story. One only saw him lift his chin slightly, arrogantly lifting the side of his face and glancing at Nangong Liyun from the side, as he coldly asked, "You want to know?" In fact, this search of the mind wasted a lot of spirit force. With regards to experts at Dongfang Xian's level, you still need a bit of good luck to control the ability for a short while. Now, Nangong Liyun coldly smiled and smashed another forceful fist over. In an instant, Dongfang Xian's nose became crooked. Blood rushed out from his nose like a fountain. Dongfang Xian felt the sharp pain and started to clamor loudly. Nangong Liyun's heart was also full of pent-up frustrations. Originally, he wanted to kill Dongfang Xian to solve all the troubles. Afterwards, he didn't expect to get the inheritance from the huge dragon shadow. Before he exited this maze, he really couldn't kill Dongfang Xian. If you want to open the door to the last challenge, without my spirit force, it's impossible. Dongfang Xian saw a bloodthirsty cold intent flash through Nangong Liyun's eyes and hurriedly reminded in a loud voice. Without the help of his spirit force, it was simply impossible to open the doors to the last challenge. Moreover, all of them wouldn't be able to get out. They would forever be locked in this secret roaming dragon territory. Even if your luck is good. Nangong Liyun's expression was calm as water as he stood up. He cast a cold sidelong glance at Dongfang Xian. Just let your body's cultivation remain for a few days then. Saying up to here, Nangong Liyun's ice-cold eyes once again took a deep glance at Dongfang Xian. Then, he immediately turned and left. The two moves just now, he had already left some deep internal injuries on Dongfang Xian's body. Adding it to the internal injuries that he still hadn't completely healed from, these layers of injuries, if Dongfang Xian could keep his life, it was already pretty good. He shouldn't have another chance to stir up trouble again. Nangong Liyun was eager to go look for Su Luo, so he left Dongfang Xian in place. But Nangong Liyun never imagined that this decision would cast a dark shadow over his and Su Luo's future. Nangong Liyun quickly left. Right now, the most important thing was for him to find Su Luo. And how was Su Luo right now? In order to search for Dongfang Xian's shadow, Su Luo kept going forward. Just how many forks were in this maze? Not long after, Su Luo wasn't even clear where she was in the maze. After walking for a long time between walls, Su Luo finally stopped because of exhaustion. She wiped away the sweat on her forehead and gave a helpless sigh. Don't know where Dongfang Xian is in the end. Could it be he is somewhere behind? Thinking of this possibility, Su Luo had the urge to cry. Immediately, Nangong Liyun's figure appeared in her head. She remembered when she was being chased by Dongfang Xian. Nangong Liyun was still fighting with that huge dragon shadow. The situation at that time looked extremely dangerous. Don't know what happened in the end. Don't know if Nangong Liyun would be in danger or not. Now in this maze, there were layers of road. She couldn't reach the end up front. Want to return using the original road, but she couldn't walk back, really made a person collapse and want to cry. Su Luo wandered around for a long time in the maze, but discovered that after walking around, she seemed to be circling in place. This kind of discovery made her mood drop to the bottom. She knew that if she continued to rush about randomly, she would never walk out of this maze. Chapter 1776. Suddenly, everything becomes clear, too. So Su Luo had no choice but to stop, using everything to study this maze. The maze was very tall, no less than 30 meters high. All around was a very thick wall. Su Luo used all her strength and smashed her fist over, but she only left a slight imprint on the wall. Moreover, very quickly, this imprint was gone, with the wall restored to its original state. As if Su Luo hadn't done anything. This made Su Luo's brows tighten. Don't know why. She had an absurd thought, as if this maze had wisdom and a spirit, as if it was alive. But very quickly, Su Luo tossed this thought to the back of her head. Because who could imagine a maze having wisdom and a spirit? But this maze gave Su Luo a very familiar feeling. What was it? Su Luo slanted her head as she continuously thought back. After thinking for a long time, she still didn't get a solution. Su Luo had no choice but to stand up, supported by the wall. However, just at this split second, that heavy layer of fog seemed to be brushed away in her mind. Immediately, everything became clear. Demon Cave! Yes, it's exactly like the Demon Cave. Su Luo suddenly recalled. At that time, wasn't she and Beichening trapped in a square stone prison? At that time, she also couldn't come out until she practiced and learned nothingness of space. Thinking of this, an excited color appeared on Su Luo's fair face. She looked close to jubilation. How could she forget such a useful skill? Really ought to die. If one must know, after her nothingness of space covered her whole body, she was able to go through walls. To speculate based on this, wouldn't these walls be? Su Luo's eyes were bright as crystal stones, sparkling and flickering with light. Didn't have time to think carefully. Su Luo started to mobilize her spirit force and envelope herself with nothingness of space. In the end, she slowly walked towards the wall step by step. When actually really able to go through walls. After discovering this fact, Su Luo immediately had an urge to place her hand on her forehead. How could she be so stupid? Clearly, it was very easy for her to think of this method. However, because of the blocked thought, she couldn't recall it for a long time. Rather, it was only after knocking against the south wall and walking so many pointless roads did she find enlightenment. However, fortunately, discovering it now was not too late. Finally, she wasn't stupid until the end. The four walls around was incomparably hard. Although Su Luo had nothingness of space and could pass by going through the walls, however, she couldn't increase her speed. Right now, Su Luo didn't know where she was, but the benefit of going through the walls was that she could go straight in one direction. After settling on one direction, Su Luo started her travel through the maze. It sounded very simple, but until she started to do it, Su Luo realized that going through walls wasn't really that easy. Because there was a countless number of walls that crisscrossed. Su Luo became dizzy just going through them, till she almost collapsed. Moreover, this kind of action really wasted spirit force. Walked straight for a long time. Just when Su Luo's head felt dizzy, suddenly, Su Luo felt something flash in front of her eyes. When she fixed her gaze again, she found herself inside a large hall. Compared with the narrow maze, the large size was relatively terrifying. Here seemed to be the main hall of a palace. All around were white jade walls. Underneath was white jade marble, and ice jade pillars stood tall, reaching to the sky. Dragons and phoenixes carved on the pillars were vivid and lifelike. Chapter 1777. Suddenly, everything became clear. 3. Where is this? Su Luo stared stupidly at the scene in front of her eyes. Standing foolishly in place, she didn't return to her senses for a long time. Suddenly, a tiny sound attracted Su Luo's attention. On the left side of the hall that was as wide as a plaza, there was a faint, fragmented sound. In this quiet ambience, it gave one a strange feeling. Su Luo's heart was slightly apprehensive, but at the same time, her curiosity was piqued. Moreover, besides that sound, Su Luo could find no other living creature. In order to explore the situation here, with rapt attention, Su Luo held her breath, slowed her footsteps, and silently approached. Rustling, a strange sound came from around the corner, like a rat nibbling on a peach it held. But here, Su Luo looked around. If she did not guess wrongly, this should be the center of the maze. Just now, she released her spirit sense and couldn't find any trace of living creatures. Closer, getting closer, only 10 meters away from here. Just at this moment, suddenly, a purple figure quickly rushed towards Su Luo. Before Su Luo could react, that black shadow had already firmly knocked into Su Luo. Its strength was very strong, so strong as to be unimaginable. Su Luo was knocked over in her moment of distraction. Don't know if Su Luo's luck was so bad that the back of her head knocked against the ground. Momentarily, she was dazed. Then, she sank into a swampy darkness. She was actually knocked unconscious. At this moment, the purple little black shadow stood by Su Luo's side. A pair of jet-black bright eyes blinked as it looked at Su Luo. Its eyes didn't have the viciousness from before. It looked perplexed and helpless. It extended its small furry paw and lightly touched Su Luo's white as jade finger. That very careful and gentle curious appearance. If a person was to see this, their heart would melt. But right now, a tall bump had swelled up on the back of Su Luo's head. Having sunk into unconsciousness, it wasn't that easy to wake her up. Therefore, no matter how the little thing bumped Su Luo, there were no indication that she would wake up. The little thing saw Su Luo didn't respond, and immediately it became anxious. A thin layer of mist covered its clear and transparent pair of jet-black eyes. It had an expression of being about to cry. What to do? The little thing sucked on its little paw, watching Su Luo full of attachment, very innocently and adorably. It looked extremely cute. At this moment, Su Luo was lying flat on the ground, motionless, with both eyes tightly closed and completely unaware. The little thing looked at Su Luo, then turned its head to look at the corner not far away. For a moment, it had difficulty choosing. However, the little thing finally made a difficult decision. One only saw it blow bubbles towards Su Luo. That's right, it was like the 7-colored bubbles Su Luo saw in the modern world that was blown into the air. The little thing blew bubbles, and there were more and more bubbles that danced in the air. It was very diverse in size and color, giving people a dreamlike feeling. Then, these bubbles actually lifted up Su Luo's body. These bubbles formed a stretcher shape and appeared under Su Luo's body, lifting her up, suspending her body high up in midair. At this time, the colorful bubbles escorted Su Luo, carrying her seemingly without anyone's control. She was carried forward. In the corner that gave off a sound, didn't know what the little thing did, and a thick door opened on the wall. Soon after, Su Luo, escorted by the bubbles, was delivered into the door. Chapter 1778. Suddenly, everything becomes clear for Clang. After the little thing flashed in, the door behind it once again shut heavily. The wall was restored to its original state. No one knew that a door once appeared there. While Su Luo disappeared from here, maybe it was heaven testing Su Luo and Nangong Luoyun. After Nangong Luoyun tossed Dongfang Xian aside, he hurried forward on his way, because his mind's spirit force was sharp and strong. So along the way, he was able to find the correct route. But after searching along the way, he didn't find Su Luo's aura. This made his pair of beautiful sword-like brows wrinkle tightly again. Nangong Luoyun controlled his expression, looking serious and reserved. While walking, he used his pair of ink-like eyes to sweep all around. He could sense that inside this maze had an unknown, dangerous flavor. If Su Luo just randomly walked around the maze, very possibly she could encounter it. This made Nangong Luoyun's heart tighten again and worry. Searching all along from beginning to end, there was no result. In the end, Nangong Luoyun also arrived at the center of the maze, not long after Su Luo was dragged into the mysterious door. It could be seen that even the heavens were testing the feelings between the two. Nangong Luoyun's tall figure stood in place, very lonesome, his black as ink beautiful eyes searching all over. The very center of the maze was endless and spacious, as if there was no treasure here. But how was that possible? Nangong Luoyun's sharp sword-like eyes very quickly saw through the place that was strange. With his hearing ability, he could faintly hear the sounds of dripping, like the sound of water dripping through stone. This sound, based on Su Luo's hearing ability, she wouldn't be able to hear it. Only experts that reached Nangong Luoyun's stage at peak of saint rank could hear this tiny noise. Let alone to say, Su Luo's luck was simply bad to the extreme. She didn't even have time to stroll around the main hall of this maze. She was harmed by her own curiosity and became unconscious. At this time, Nangong Luoyun accelerated his footsteps. Very quickly, he arrived at the place, making the noise. The right side of the grand hall, in the opposite direction of the place where Su Luo disappeared. After he walked to the end, Nangong Luoyun saw a bizarre scene. One only saw an ancient tree standing there, about the height of a person. Not only was this tree's height similar to a person's, moreover, its figure was also similar to a person's. If it weren't for the fact that the tree was full of lush branches and full of leaves, at first glance it really looked like a person. That dripping sound came precisely from this tree. Human tree from antiquity? Nangong Luoyun said in a low and astonished tone. Nangong Luoyun was widely read and knowledgeable. His brain seemed to have memorized the entire library collection in the imperial capital. So his store of knowledge wasn't something to be compared to ordinary people. Maybe others might think this was a tree that had a strange appearance and wouldn't pay more attention to it. But Nangong Luoyun wasn't the same. At one glance, he could see through the ordinary appearance and grab the essence. This tree was very marvelous, because based on the description from Nangong Luoyun's knowledge, this tree could condense out a jade-like soul essence. And this jade-like soul essence was something naturally fused by nature, like the water and fire element, or light attribute and dark attribute. These natural elements that opposed each other. If one didn't have the assistance of a spirit medicine and wanted to successfully fuse them, it would be a very difficult and arduous task. But after having this jade-like soul essence, this matter would become very simple. Fusing opposite elements will become easy, but what about elements that aren't opposites? With this jade-like soul essence, wanting to fuse elements would then become a lot simpler. Chapter 1779. Suddenly, everything becomes clear. 5. It was also because of this jade-like soul essence's value that wasn't something humans could imagine. In fact, even Jade Lakely family, who was one of the top 10 families, if their elder ancestor was to see this jade-like soul essence, he would jump up. Now, this tree actually appeared in front of Nangong Luoyun, within reach. Moreover, there were no other people to fight over it with him, or to loot. This luck was simply too good. If it was Su Luo standing in front of this tree, right now, she would have a countless amount of trouble. But change to Nangong Luoyun, then these issues wouldn't be any problem at all. The leaves on the top of the human tree from antiquity were the biggest. It was also the leaves in this area that accumulated the jade-like essence. After going through these areas of leaves, a very tiny drop of jade-like essence dripped down. It continued to flow down directly until it reached the lowest leaves on the tree. When it came together on the last area of leaves, the jade-like essence had gathered from sesame seed size to the size of a glutinous rice ball. Then it rolled down to the ground and into that very small spirit pool. This was the first time the secret roaming dragon territory in this maze was opened. No one knew how long it had existed, but it could be determined that before, no one had taken these jade-like soul essence. Thus, these jade-like soul essence would accumulate in this deep pool. Now, looking at it, there was a very shallow pool of this essence. If one only had a small bowl of it, the value was already unimaginable. But now, there was a full spirit pool of it. If it was someone else, they probably would have fainted on the spot, right? But this matter happened to Nangong Luoyun, and he didn't think much of it. His expression was calm as before, with a still peaceful complexion. Not a thread of waves could be seen between his brows. Nangong Luoyun probed cautiously, because according to reason, such precious treasure was sure to have a spirit beast guarding it. But now Nangong Luoyun shook his head, puzzled. When he was about to take away a small bowl of jade-like soul essence, this tree, including everything around it, didn't give a trace of resistance and reaction. Moreover, no spirit beast rushed out to protect against and block him. In the end, where did the problem occur? Nangong Luoyun could faintly feel a trace of strangeness. In fact, how could Nangong Luoyun have imagined that this human tree from antiquity really did have a saint-level spirit beast protecting it? It was precisely that little thing that dragged Su Luo away. But because in innumerable years, there wasn't a single person that stepped foot in here, therefore, that little thing's thoughts became lazy and simple. So that little thing, without any guard, went to play with Su Luo. Or would it still have the time to manage the things here? So, it was just this coincidence that Nangong Luoyun got the jade-like soul essence, but lost news about Su Luo. Nangong Luoyun couldn't think of the twists and turns in it. Now, after he probed the surroundings and discovered he could easily take the jade-like soul essence away, he didn't hesitate anymore. With a wave of his hand, he stuffed this entire pool of soul essence collected since antiquity into his space, making it easier to carry away. It was also because Nangong Luoyun's luck was very good. After entering this maze, he could sense the space bag that was locked could once again be opened. So to carry away this pool of jade-like soul essence became a very easy thing. Nangong Luoyun wasn't a bit polite. A whole spirit pool, almost close to 100 kilograms of jade-like soul essence. He didn't leave a drop behind, taking it all away. Don't know if, when that Saint Beast Protector came out, it would cry until it fainted. After Nangong Luoyun collected the jade-like soul essence, he turned and was about to leave. But before he walked several steps away, the corner of his wide sleeves was grasped by a person. Chapter 1780. Suddenly, everything becomes clear. 6. Nangong Luyun shook it off in displeasure. He frowned and turned around. This turn of head made his brows knot even more tightly. This was still the original full of green human tree from antiquity. Right now, the feeling this ancient tree gave Nangong Luyun had completely changed. One only saw the original green-colored leaves change into a faint pink color in an instant. It gave a person a very dreamy feeling. Not only this, Nangong Luyun could feel that from this ancient tree came a burst of excitement and bashfulness. That's right, it was precisely this feeling. Nangong Luyun was suddenly cold and disgusted. He could sense the existence of trouble. As a result, he turned, wanting to leave. However, before he could take a step, that ancient tree had changed into a very small branch in an instant. It grabbed Nangong Luyun's belt with a death grip, having the appearance of no matter what, it wouldn't let go. Nangong Luyun felt his head become big. It was very clear that this tree wanted to follow him to leave. If this tree was more normal, a bit stronger, and not in the shape of such a dreamy girl, maybe he really would take it away. After all, finding a plant pet isn't an easy matter. Moreover, looking at Su Luo's variant acacia tree, it was really helpful. But this, it's best to forget it. After Nangong Luyun made up his mind, directly waved his hand and got rid of this ancient tree from his waist. Soon after, he tossed it back to its original place. Then, without turning back, he took large strides and left. With regards to being iron-faced and heartless, if Nangong Luyun claimed to be number 2, there really wasn't anyone who dared to say they were number 1. After the little ancient tree was tossed back to its original place, its whole body gave off a being wronged and grieved feeling, as if it was about to cry. It looked at Nangong Luyun's figure that was gradually getting further away. The more it looked, the more it became heartbroken. It couldn't help but cry with a wah sound. But the view of Nangong Luyun's back was still that determined. Said he didn't want it, then he didn't want it. No matter how bitterly it cried, it had nothing to do with him. After the little ancient tree discovered this trick was useless, it sucked in air from its nose, then eagerly ran up. It hopped and skipped to follow after Nangong Luyun, slavishly following behind him. Nangong Luyun walked, it also walked. Nangong Luyun stopped to turn and glare at it. Then its small body would cower pitifully, pulling back to tremble in place. This little thing, not only did it look pitiful, moreover, it was a rare treasure one couldn't encounter in a millennium. Changed to others, who wouldn't be overjoyed, they would fight for it to the death. But against all reason, Nangong Luyun just didn't want it. Even if the other side tenaciously threw itself over, he was still firm in not wanting it. Nangong Luyun felt somewhat annoyed. He gave a cold humph, then turned his head and left. At the same time, he increased his speed, making it soar to a speed that others couldn't reach. However, what Nangong Luyun didn't expect was, based on speed, this little ancient tree wasn't slower than him. No matter how fast his speed reached, the little thing was able to follow behind him, slavishly keeping up with him, close behind. This discovery surprised Nangong Luyun. Could it be that this little thing's strength had reached a new stage? If it was like this, then he could accept it, wait until he found Luo, then give it to her as a gift. With this little ancient tree protecting Luo, if she couldn't beat the opponent, it could carry Luo on its back and run. This would make him feel a lot more reassured. Thinking like this, Nangong Luyun's attitude toward this little ancient tree improved a bit. He stopped his footsteps and turned around. Seeing Nangong Luyun's tall figure suddenly turn around, the little ancient tree had the fear of being caught doing something wrong. It subconsciously retreated a step. Chapter 1781. Trying to be clever ended up with egg on one's face. 1. Nangong Luyan extended out his white as jade hand and beckoned towards the little ancient tree. Just this move made the little ancient tree very excited. As a result, it eagerly and very quickly hopped in front of Nangong Luyan. Nangong Luyan frowned as he looked at this bashful little thing, giving two disdainful humps. Fortunately, it was prepared for Su Girl. If it was for himself, such a cute little thing, he really couldn't afford to use it. Are you willing to go with me? Nangong Luyan had a stiff expression, and his tone was ice-cold without a touch of warmth one ought to have when kidnapping a child. Even so, the little thing still wasn't able to suppress its excitement. Its branches shook as if its life depended on it, showing its excited mood at this moment. Nangong Luyan frowned with reluctance. In a mild tone, he said, "Then keep pace." Finished speaking these 3 words, Nangong Luyan took large strides and left. After the little ancient tree got his consent, its heart jumped with thump, thump sounds, so excited that it was beside itself. One only saw it jump up in 2 to 3 steps, its claws fiddling around Nangong Luyan's waist. Nangong Luyan wasn't used to other people touching him. Even a tree wasn't allowed. One only saw him use his strength to peel the little ancient tree off him and toss it to the ground. But the little ancient tree wasn't discouraged. It still threw itself up rapidly. Then it grabbed tightly onto the corner of Nangong Luyan's robe and refused to let go. As a result, one tried to wrap around, the other tried to toss it aside. This happy play was played continuously. Nangong Luyan didn't know that Su Luo once appeared here. Moreover, he didn't know that Su Luo was dragged into the wall by the guarding mystical beast, so he took large strides and left without any reluctance. Just like this, time and time again, a freak combination of factors, so the two would miss meeting again and again. Don't know when they would really reunite again. Speaking of Su Luo's side, Su Luo was escorted by the multicolored bubbled into a strange and mysterious door. After the door closed, this place turned into a completely new world. Su Luo continued to be unconscious. This time, she slept very deeply. If speaking according to normal circumstances, it was only her head that was knocked slightly around. It was unlikely to make her unconscious to this degree. But now, time had already quietly passed for several hours. Not only wasn't there traces that Su Luo would wake up, it seemed her situation had become even worse. The guardian divine beast, also known as this little sable, it saw Su Luo's complexion turn red and having difficulty breathing. It couldn't help but be anxious, grabbing its ears and scratching its cheeks, didn't know what would be good for it to do. What to do? The little sable's tail stuck up high, walking in circles around the unconscious Su Luo. From time to time, it would slap its own forehead. Suddenly a light flashed through its eyes. It remembered that when it was unwell, it only had to eat a red-colored medicinal herb. Then it would be fine. It remembered there were several stalks of that medicinal herb stored. Recalling this, the little sable immediately became excited. One only saw it swaying its tail eagerly and very quickly rushing wildly ahead. After 7 to 8 turns, as if it had ran quite a distance, don't know what it was busy doing, quite a while later, one saw it return covered in dirt. Only this time, it had a fiery red plant in its mouth. This plant didn't seem big, about the size of a cup of wine. Gorgeous scarlet color, full of attractiveness and elegance. Little Sable didn't have time to think too much. Its mouth held this red flower, and it jumped to Su Luo's side in 2 to 3 steps. Its little claw pinched the flower, squeezing out the fiery red juice. The juice followed the little claw and dripped down, drop by drop. At this time, Su Luo seemed to be in a deep sleep, allowing the little sable to manipulate her as it pleased. Chapter 1782. Trying to be clever, ended up with egg on one's face, too. In fact, right now, Su Luo really didn't know what was happening around her. Because this place was a mystical space, ever since Su Luo was sent in, she had been unconscious. So she didn't know that the spirit force was very thin in this space. so weak that it was negligible. It was just like the world Su Luo once lived in. Su Luo originally had good strength, but entering here, her strength was tyrannically suppressed. Her body strength also became very weak. What's even more pitiful was that Su Luo's space was also cut off by force. So the her right now simply didn't have a way to connect with the little stone and battle god puppet in her space. It was also because of this that Su Luo remained unconscious. The little stone and the others also didn't know the situation outside. At this time, the little sable squeezed out the juice and it entered Su Luo's mouth drop by drop. Su Luo passively accepted the little sable's kindness. The aroma from the juice assailed the nose. It was exceptionally attractive. Su Luo, without any consciousness of danger, opened her mouth and swallowed all of it. After feeding her all the juice, the little sable wiped away at the sweat on its forehead. At last, its heart could relax. The little sable, in 2 to 3 mouthfuls, chewed up the dried flour and swallowed it into its stomach. Afterwards, it anxiously watched Su Luo, trying to look for any indication that Su Luo might recover. Time passed bit by bit, but the little sable gradually felt despair. Because right now, Su Luo's situation not only didn't get better, rather, she got worse. One only saw that right now, Su Luo's entire body seemed to be burning amongst a flame. Her entire body's temperature had reached a peak. The kind of temperature that she could almost spontaneously combust. Not only that, because of pain, her whole body twitched and jerked nonstop as she gave low cries of pain. Su Luo's forehead was covered in a cold sweat. Her complexion was terrifying pale, as if she would pass away at any time. Seeing Su Luo like this, the little sable was frightened. Immediately anxious, it got up, its pair of clear, innocent and monochrome eyes were opened wide and at a loss. It looked at Su Luo helplessly. Originally, its kind intention was of wanting to cure Su Luo. It really never expected that the more it treated her, the worse she got. Watching that Su Luo's entire body was about to burn up, the little sable suddenly didn't know what to do. Okay. Water! That's right, water! The little sable suddenly thought, since she was about to burn up, wouldn't it be good if it brought over water to put out the fire? This thought couldn't be said to be wrong. But clearly, this little sable's mind was too simple. In fact, it was not hard to understand. Ever since the little sable was born, it had lived inside the secret roaming dragon territory. It had never experienced the world outside, so its mind being so simple was to be expected. The little sable, in a panicked manner, ran over, grabbed its own water, and fed it to Su Luo. Right now, the pitiful Su Luo was unconscious, completely disconnected from the little stone and others. How could she stop this kind of thing from happening? Therefore, the pitiful Su Luo, in an unconscious state, was fed a large amount of water by the little sable. How could the little sable's drinking water be so simple? Very clearly it wasn't, because this water was the jade-like soul essence that Nangong Luyun took away. When the little sable was thirsty, it would use it as drinking water to drink. It could be seen how luxurious a life it had. But Su Luo, in this kind of situation, how could Su Luo even drink the jade-like soul essence, let alone to say in a situation where she was fed a large amount of it? Chapter 1783, Trying to be clever, ended up with egg on one's face 3, but the little sable simply didn't know the huge health hazard it was creating for Su Luo at this time. Right now, it was extremely proud and complacent. After feeding a large bowl of jade-like soul essence, the little sable felt it was enough, and it put the empty bowl on the side. Then, it laid on the side of Su Luo's face, its pair of paws propping up its face. Its pair of clear monochrome black eyes spun as it looked at Su Luo. This time, Su Luo was really unlucky. In this place without spirit force, the wound that was already healing too slow. Su Luo was about to wake up after it healed somewhat with great difficulty, But who knew the little sable would run over with good intentions but continue to toss her? Having drank a large bowl of jade-like soul essence, Su Luo sank into a deep sleep. The little sable saw Su Luo sink into deep sleep and that she had stopped sweating, no longer so pale, and its heart immediately relaxed. It was so happy it almost flew. It was very proud of its conduct. And before the little sable could be too proud, it discovered that matters had once again changed violently. The just peacefully sleeping Su Luo now started to spasm, her whole body twitching and jerking nonstop. Because of pain, her body continued to twist. The sweat on her forehead was like spring water as it rushed out. Not only this, the veins on her body started to seep out fine, tiny beads of blood. The beads of blood leaked out. Very quickly, it condensed into a strong blood flavor. This kind of scene scared the little sable until it almost cried. It originally didn't think that matters would make such a violent change. It didn't know what to do in such an urgent situation, because in its eyes, everything it did was for the good of Su Luo. Su Luo was in extreme pain. When she almost became numb from the pain, that pair of eyes slowly opened. In the darkness, Su Luo's monochrome eyes were so clear that you could see to the bottom. She looked at the little sable in front, and then at the bloodstains on her own body. Momentarily, she was speechless. She merely took a fall. How was it that she woke up and it had become this serious? Luckily, her constitution was special. After eating the scarlet blood Ningpo figwort, her body had become unprecedentedly good. Her blood became the best miracle medicine. Su Luo's heart relaxed a lot. However, when she started to activate her spirit force to let the life-saving blood in her body circulate, she suddenly discovered no reaction. Tried again. Still no reaction. Su Luo immediately became stupefied. How could it be like this? Her body clearly had spirit force. How was it that she had a feeling of suddenly arriving at the time before liberation after working hard for a lifetime? She couldn't activate the spirit force in her body to heal, to the extent that she simply couldn't even sense the existence of spirit force. Could it be that her spirit force was abolished? Once she thought of this possibility, Su Luo almost collapsed. But Su Luo's temperament had always been steady. Encountering such an urgent situation, very quickly, she was able to calm down. After she had calmed down, she discovered a strange phenomenon. But a situation appeared on her body. Rather, in this space, her body no longer had any spirit force. The spirit force seemed to have been removed. It was very much like the earth she once lived on. In the end, what's going on? How could she have gotten here? And where was this place? All kinds of questions appeared in Su Luo's mind. Chapter 1784, Trying to be Clever, ended up with egg on one's face 4. However, before she could ask, a burst of pain made Su Luo's mind empty. She almost lost all her consciousness. So painful. Su Luo felt her whole body was in pain. It was nonstop. The pain made her want to cut off the meat on her own body piece by piece. In the end, what's going on? Su Luo weakly asked the little sable at the side. She remembered that at that time, it was this little thing that popped out. Then, she was knocked down in place, and immediately after, she lost consciousness. When she woke up, it was already this thoroughly bad condition. The little sable's eyes were damp-looking, very aggrieved. It looked very pitiful, really provoked a person's empathy and love. But under Su Luo's gaze that almost spat out fire, the little sable still summoned up its courage and still told her the truth. What? Is it you that sent me here? Su Luo placed her hand over her forehead and repeatedly sighed. Oh. The little sable pitifully nodded. Its large, damp monochrome eyes unblinkingly looked at Su Luo. Then could you send me back out? Su Luo felt she was about to pass out from the pain. Only if she was sent out to a place that had a little bit of spirit force, maybe her body would improve by itself. But the little sable weakly glanced at Su Luo. Even the red sunflower that healed it couldn't heal her. Was sending out really good? It was as if Su Luo could hear the voice in the little sable's heart. Seeing this, she struggled to use her last bit of strength to nod. Her gaze was calm, expression serious and earnest. Really, believe me. Send me out okay. If she wasn't sent out, then she would lose her life. Seeing that Su Luo repeatedly insisted on this, the little sable finally agreed, because it also discovered that it had done bad things based on good intentions. As a result, the little sable blew out multicolored bubbles one after another. And these bubbles formed a human-sized stretcher. It floated Su Luo in midair, then slowly lifted her out. Before, when Su Luo was lifted in, she was unconscious, therefore, she didn't see such a dreamlike scene. Now, she watched as this mystical thing happened right under her eyes. But the Su Luo right now was full of pain, wishing she would go out immediately. So her attention wasn't on this multicolored bubbles. This time, Su Luo urged continuously, therefore their speed for leaving was still considered pretty fast. In less than 1 teacup's time, that thick door in the wall appeared once again. And this door could only be opened by the little sable. After exiting this door, Su Luo immediately felt the spirit force rushing over from all directions. It was as if every pore in her body smoothed out at this moment. It was so comfortable that she almost cried. The little sable saw Su Luo become more comfortable, and was now aware that it really had done bad things based on good intentions. However, the little sable still wasn't aware it also did another bad thing. If it didn't send Su Luo into that door, then when Nangong Luyun came in, Su Luo and Nangong Luyun could meet again in here. Then that bitter thing would also not happen. Now, Su Luo still didn't know that thing was about to occur. Now, she sat cross-legged. Her pair of eyes was closed, and she wholeheartedly sank into cultivation. Time passed bit by bit. The little sable sat on the side but was bored, therefore, it roamed around everywhere. However, when it strolled to the human tree of antiquity area, it immediately became stunned, frightened, alarmed. Chapter 1785, Trying to be Clever, ended up with egg on one's face. 5. The jade-like soul essence it had always protected had suddenly disappeared. Moreover, the spirit tree it was protecting had also vanished without a trace. This matter was very serious. The little sable immediately became anxious. It stood on tiptoes and went around in circles around the huge hall, hopping here and there. However, no matter how anxiously it searched, the little ancient tree and the jade-like soul essence still didn't appear. The little sable gloomily scratched its head, not knowing what would be best for it to do. At this time, another situation appeared on Su Luo's side. Su Luo originally thought that after getting out of that strange space, relying on her body's cultivation, she could restore the condition of her injury to before. But after some tests, she discovered that her thoughts from before were too naive. After having been tossed by the little sable, Su Luo discovered she simply couldn't clear the hot fire and cold poison in her body. Just when Su Luo had no alternative, the little stone in Su Luo's space gave a faint sigh. Right now, the little stone had his hand on his forehead, expressing his helplessness at the current situation. What to do? Su Luo was gasping for breath nonstop, powerlessly leaning against the wall. She silently communicated with the little stone. The corner of the little stone's mouth twitched. Afterwards, it had no choice but to tell Su Luo the facts. Stop being so busy trying. You simply can't clear it alone. Then what? Su Luo speechlessly glanced at the little sable, asking with a gossamer's breath. The best way is to fuse it. This way, your strength will be promoted by a lot again. It's several folds faster than you simply just cultivating. The little stone drew a circle on the paper, giving Su Luo a beautiful hope. Fuse? It's easy to say it, but the problem is how to fuse. Su Luo was so depressed she almost cried. Right now in her dantian, Water and fire was mixing, repelling each other. Moreover, clearly, the fire element couldn't continue to withstand the other element. If you had the Yun Luo Red Lotus, then that would best. The little stone's pair of eyes had a longing as he gave a faint sigh. Yun Luo Red Lotus? What kind of thing is that? Su Luo couldn't bear the pain coming from her entire body as she asked in puzzlement. To solve health issues in her body now was the most pressing matter. Of course, if she could transform the bad thing into a good thing, then that would be best. When Su Luo said Yun Luo Red Lotus these 4 words, the little sable not far away clearly had a surprised expression. Then, it stealthily used the corner of its eyes to look at Su Luo. It did this very stealthily, but how could this escape the little stone's pair of wily old fox-like eyes? Let alone to say, the reason why the little stone said, Yun Luo Red Lotus, these 4 words were simply to probe the little sable. Because according to the little stone's original body's experience, all living things opposed or supported each other. A place that had the jade-like soul essence, then there was a great possibility it would give rise to the Yun Luo Red Lotus. Yun Luo Red Lotus is a type of mystical source of fire. Maybe you can call it a different fire. The little stone gazed at the little sable, the corner of his mouth hooking into a treacherous smile. And if you can control this different fire, then you'll probably be number 1 among the fire element mages in this world. Are there any other benefits? Su Luo felt that matters weren't that simple. Yes. Now, the little stone was very frank with Su Luo. One only saw him smile faintly. After you get the Yun Luo Red Lotus, your ability to concoct pills will improve significantly. Want to quickly be promoted to Grandmaster rank apothecary? It won't be impossible. Su Luo's complexion turned slightly red. She knew the little stone was making fun of her. Chapter 1786. Yun Luo Red Lotus 1. Then, in the end, where is the Yun Luo Red Lotus? This was the most important. Wanting to get the Yun Luo Red Lotus. Afraid she must still spend a lot of mental and physical effort. Su Luo recalled her body's current condition and couldn't help but be somewhat discouraged. Ask it. The little stone very casually tossed this hot potato to the guardian mystical beast, the little sable. That little thing actually knew? Su Luo had a plan in her heart. As a result, her hand beckoned the little sable to come over. The little sable's heart right now was very complicated. Seeing Su Luo calling, it jumped and skipped over. Its small body stood straight in front of Su Luo, looking very comical. Its eyes were damp with an extremely cute face. Do you know of the Yun Luo Red Lotus? Su Luo got right to the point and asked directly. The little sable covered its mouth with its little paws in surprise, afraid it would leak out its excited mood. But this movement it made clearly leaked out the information thoroughly. Su Luo directly picked it up and hugged it, gently rubbing its furry little chin. She knew the little sable had some misgivings, so she gave it some time to consider. The little sable thought a bit. In the end, it looked at Su Luo seriously. Its face was unprecedentedly solemn and earnest, as it said 2 words, very dangerous. Su Luo's smile was somewhat dark. If she didn't do anything, according to the little stone's words, then she was just waiting for death. She would just die, but if she risked everything to go, based on her luck, she might be able to grab back a life. Let alone to say, she still had a trump card, the Battle God puppet. Recalling the Battle God puppet in her space with bright eyes, Su Luo had the urge to place her hand over her forehead. If she hadn't stopped it in time, afraid the majority of the treasures in her space that contained spirit force would have been swallowed by it. Now, the treasure she got from the first challenge, almost all of it had been consumed by the Battle God puppet. Even the overbearingly rich Su Luo, now, also couldn't afford this glutton of a Battle God puppet. Time passed bit by bit. The little sable, seeing Su Luo persist, in the end, it could only helplessly nod. Jumping out of Su Luo's arms, it took noble and graceful strides to run in front of Su Luo, leading the way. Now Su Luo's heavy injuries hadn't healed, so she was unable to move freely. As a result, she summoned out the battle god puppet. Then, Su Luo sat on its shoulder, and along with the little sable, quickly rushed forward. When the battle god puppet saw the little sable, it couldn't help but lick its lips. Seeing this, Su Luo once again had the urge to place her hand on her forehead. After the little nine-tailed spirit fox, this little sable also became the battle god puppet's food reserve. In fact, Su Luo didn't know that the little sable had the natural mission to guard the ancient tree. As long as the ancient tree was here, he could never leave this maze. But now, the ancient tree actually ran away. That was to say, the little sable's natural mission could no longer bind him. So it was able to leave the scope of the maze as it wished. The little sable brought Su Luo away, missing the chance to meet with Nangong Luyun. And Nangong Luyun took away the little ancient tree, so the little sable could leave the maze openly. These coincidences seemed as if a pair of huge, shadowy hands was moving in the dark, controlling everything in its palm. The little sable's familiarity with this maze wasn't something other people could compare to. One only saw him turn here and there, would certainly find a shortcut. The little sable's speed was very fast. The battle god puppets naturally wasn't weaker. Everyone very quickly left the range of the maze. But the little sable's footsteps didn't stop. Rather, it still moved quickly forward. Chapter 1787. Yun Luo Red Lotus 2. After walking for approximately 4 hours, Su Luo gradually sensed a trace of difference in the air. It's more accurate to say, the air seemed to contain a formidable fire element. And this fire element firmly suppressed the fire element in her body. It was like a subject seeing the emperor, having an involuntary reverence feeling. Right now Su Luo had such a faint feeling. Can't be so unusual, right? Su Luo was half skeptical. But as time passed, and as they got closer, Su Luo's feeling of reverence became stronger and stronger. It made her feel uneasy and excited. Unease because of the reverence and worship of a normal fire element towards the Yun Luo Red Lotus, this supreme, different fire element. Excited because Su Luo knows this Yun Luo Red Lotus will soon become an object in her bag. As she got closer, not only could Su Luo feel it, she was able to see that sea of fire in front of her. Gotten closer, Su Luo could clearly see the panoramic view in front of her eyes. What amazed people was this sea of fire was burning on top of snowy ground. The pure white snow that hasn't melted for millennium. On top of it was this fiercely burning sea of fire. It was endless, as if the sky was a huge, burning flame. How could it be like this? Seeing this mystical scene in front of her eyes, Su Luo suddenly had a strange feeling. Such a huge sea of fire. Why couldn't it melt the snow? How come the heavy snow couldn't extinguish this endless fire? Fire and water are incompatible. This made Su Luo doubt her past worldviews, even to the point of overturning it. Because this is the law of heaven and earth. Right now, the little sable's expression was cautious and grave. Not the dim-witted, foolish, cute, and innocent expression it had when Su Luo first saw it. Law of heaven and earth? Su Luo was even more puzzled. Such an incredible thing really was too unfathomable to grasp. If you can understand the law of heaven and earth, then you can enter saint rank. In Su Luo's mind, the little stone gave a long, drawn-out sigh. But the little stone knew Su Luo's road to breaking through this speed was too fast. Her foundation wasn't stable yet. If she blindly seeks speed and not steadiness toward the end, she will definitely encounter problems. Right now, the most important thing for Su Luo is to stabilize her foundation and not to take a shortcut to break through. Also, because of this, the little stone didn't mention some things related to the laws of heaven and earth. Is the Yun Luo Red Lotus inside? Su Luo's eyes had 2 columns of flames jumping up. Also, it was a question, but Su Luo said in a tone that was certain. because she was already 80 to 90% sure in her heart this was the reverence the fire element had to a different fire. Yes, the little stone had very deep understanding of the fire element. Now even he had a trace of excitement that he was unable to hold back. Yun Luo Red Lotus that was a legendary existence that he only heard of in his last life. Didn't expect to have the fortune to encounter it this lifetime. Looks like there is barely some benefits to following this little girl. Although they were certain the Yun Luo Red Lotus is here, but Su Luo still frowned. Because she doesn't know how to safely get the Yun Luo Red Lotus in hand under such circumstances. Let alone to say her body's current condition wasn't good. First go and then discuss it. The little stone couldn't hide the excitement in his heart. Even the little stone doesn't know what would happen after entering, but in this kind of situation, no one would select to turn and leave because of danger up ahead. Careful, the little stone said faintly. Chapter 1788 Yun Luo Red Lotus 3 Su Luo nodded, preparing to enter this mystical and strange world. Originally, Su Luo thought entering such a strange world of ice and fire, two types of opposite atmosphere, would be very difficult. But until she entered this place, she discovered it wasn't like that at all. Although the fire was fierce, but all the way it seems as if Su Luo entered a place no one has entered before. She walked unhindered and unimpeded. This made her really curious. Outside, a wild, scalding flame ignited. Fire snakes danced in the breeze, seemingly very dangerous. But inside is warm like the spring, the feeling of bathing in the spring breeze. Such a huge contrast made it somewhat hard for Su Luo to adapt. How could it be like this? Su Luo's large pair of eyes blinked. Clearly, she was at a loss with this kind of situation. The little stone also carefully observed the surroundings. Faintly, he could feel a trace of something fishy. But as to specifically where it was fishy, he couldn't say. Go in and look. Right now, the situation was unclear. The little stone also couldn't say much. If the situation isn't good, hurriedly let that large guy carry you out. Wait until you find Nangong Luyun, that boy, then entering won't be too late. And Su Luo nodded in agreement. This sea of fire seemed to be endless, extending to the end of the horizon. Although the surrounding temperature was cozy to the extreme, there doesn't seem to be any danger in the surrounding. But the more it was the chill in Su Luo's heart would rush up madly. Made her even more cautious, not daring to be careless in the slightest. In this environment with the red-colored fire, don't know how far she walked. Suddenly, a strange shadow flashed by in the back of Su Luo's head. In an instant, Su Luo's back felt cold. She instantly felt numb. She abruptly turned her head back, but discovered it was empty behind her with nothing there. Could it be her own misperception? Su Luo rubbed her head, thinking of this suspiciously. Just at this moment, another shadow with strange speed passed by her right side with a whoosh sound. It disappeared in an instant. At this moment, Su Luo was certain such a thing exists. What is that thing? Su Luo asked the little stone. Merely a little fire, no need to mention it. Don't worry about it. The little stone saw it clearly and gave several cold humps. Su Luo secretly stuck out her tongue. You old guy naturally don't need to worry about it, but as a small fry, I couldn't even see clearly its speed. How could I not worry about it? Moreover, these thick flames clearly had malice towards her. Just at this time, suddenly 4 flames headed directly towards Su Luo at the same time from 4 different directions. With strong momentum and murderous aura, Su Luo was just about to dodge and avoid it, but before she could dodge, one only saw the little sable spin around in a circle. When Su Luo looked again, where did the flames go? Su Luo blinked her eyes, looking at the scene before her in disbelief. When Su Luo saw the little sable again, she had an even stronger urge to place her hand over her forehead. One only saw the little sable's mouth moving, giving off continuous chewing sound, as if what it was eating was very fragrant. As to what it was eating, Su Luo could guess with her eyes closed. For sure it was the 4 flames from just now. Are you sure you'll be all right like this? Su Luo asked in disbelief. These 4 flames' attack power were very strong. Even when she was at her peak, she would have to consume a lot of strength to resist these flames. Didn't expect the little sable would directly swallow the flames. Moreover, it was eating it very cheerfully. The little sable wiped the corner of its mouth. It lifted a pair of large, clear, deer-like eyes and looked at Su Luo in puzzlement. Really delicious, ah. Still want more? Really delicious? Su Luo suddenly felt speechless. Chapter 1789. Yun Luo Red Lotus 4. How could this kind of flame be delicious? If the little divine dragon was still here, it will have a lot of common subject with the little sable. Because both of these little guys really like to swallow fantastical and odd things. Recalling the little divine dragon, Su Luo's heart couldn't help but be sad. She had been separated from the little divine dragon for a period of time. Don't know if he was doing all right. Ayo, ayo, ayo. Suddenly the little sable gave excited howling sounds. Su Luo's head turned back, and what she saw made her face turn pale. The little sable was excited, but Su Luo really couldn't feel any excitement. At this moment, one only saw a countless number of flames rushed over from all directions. These flames were orange-colored, blue-colored, purple-colored, there was even a black-colored flame. Densely packed, bold and fierce like moths that flies into flames. Moreover, it gave mournful and strange sounds. Su Luo's heart became nervous in an instant. Howl! This bundles of will-o'-the-wisp arrived with whistling sounds. Originally, the little sable was excited now. Its little face also started to become nervous. With a whoosh sound, it ran into Su Luo's arms. Its 2 little paws clenched tightly to Su Luo's clothes with a death grip. Su Luo knew. Now, even the little sable was powerless. Right now, in all directions was wide, open fields. With no way to retreat, Su Luo could only think of a way by herself. She had no time to think and quickly throw herself to the ground. At the same time, she hurriedly formed the nothingness of space, tightly enveloping her and the little sable's body. Above her head was a dense mass of will-o'-the-wisp, giving off blood-curdling screams that was mournful and contained endless injustice. The sharp sounds could almost pierce a person's eardrum. Su Luo laid on the ground, firmly covered her ears, turning a blind eye to the terrible scene above her head. But even so, she still received a strong attack. Already seriously injured, she only felt a burst of qi and blood boiling, as if she was in danger of fainting at any moment. She could still endure the pain on her body. What made Su Luo collapse was those strong, mournful cries. This will-o'-the-wisp immediately disappeared after seeing they couldn't injure Su Luo. Their speed was extremely fast, as they disappeared without a trace, as if they had never appeared before. Su Luo was able to feel relief after they left and suck in large mouthfuls of air. At this moment, her forehead was covered with cold sweat. Her complexion was frighteningly pale. These will-o'-the-wisps are all burning souls. Before Su Luo could ask the question in her heart, the little stone had already answered her. Souls? Su Luo cried out in surprise. That's right, every will-o'-the-wisp is a soul. Cruel souls that suffered injustice and full of resentment. The little stone's tone carried a trace of deep melancholy. And these souls were imprisoned here at that time. Now they are on the verge of exploding. Hearing this explanation, Su Luo's heart sunk again. The little stone started to talk again. Can you see clearly? These will-o'-the-wisp souls seem freeful and restless, twitching nonstop. Their mind are close to zombie-like. Could it be? Su Luo had always been intelligent. Having the little stone point this out, she immediately felt the excitement of pushing aside a dense fog and seeing the truth. There is an abnormal shift among this. The little stone nodded slightly. If I didn't guess wrong, it should be something happened to the Yun Luo Red Lotus. And the most probable is that it should be waking up. What will happen when it wakes up? Su Luo immediately asked. If it wakes up, all living things will die out. Not bones would be left from being set on fire. The little stone looked at Su Luo with sympathy. His gaze was very serious. Within this very short period before the Yun Luo Red Lotus wakes up, it's the safest and the best opportunity to acquire it. Chapter 1790. Yun Luo Red Lotus 5. So, you mean we can't wait for Nangong, and we can only do it ourselves? Su Luo sighed at the situation. Her road back was blocked. Now she could only rely on herself. Little Stone nodded solemnly. Okay, that's the only way, Su Luo stroked her forehead. Now, knowing that the road ahead would be difficult, and Nangong Luyin couldn't come to support her, she would go alone to get the Yun Luo Red Lotus. Yun Luo Red Lotus, the first fire born in the beginning of the heaven and earth's creation. If you can get this fire, not to mention heal your injury, you will have a much easier way to go in the future. And this opportunity is really rare. The little stone sighed. He didn't know if there was a pair of hands controlling all of this. He always felt that Su Luo's luck was outrageously good. When she met the little sable, she found the Yun Luo Red Lotus, and it also just happened to be the weak period of the Red Lotus, which almost reduced the difficulty of the original 100% to a very low degree, which couldn't be counted as an ordinary good luck. But Su Luo herself didn't know how lucky she was, and still thought the degree of difficulty was very great. Let's go quickly. Su Luo held the little sable in her arms and walked fast. It was like a cave here. There were flames continuously falling down. Every step that Su Luo took must be careful, and she had to concentrate her mental strength. This wasn't easy because she was seriously injured. At this point, some of Su Luo's spirit power had been consumed, and her speed couldn't help but slowing down. In fact, she could summon the battle god puppet and let it carry her. But Su Luo only shook her head when she thought of the huge amount of spirit force consumed by the battle god puppet and decided to keep it until the critical moment. Fortunately, there was no more concentrated attack of the soul flames along the way. Although there were occasionally 2 or 3, there were only a small amount, so it could be swallowed by the little sable. Even Su Luo felt that it was good as she went through without a hitch. Don't let your guard down. The low voice of Little Stone sounded in Su Luo's mind. Is there danger ahead? Su Luo lowered her voice and whispered. Little Stone was much stronger than her in strength and have much more experience. He was also one of her most trusted people. Remember where those soul flames have gone? Asked the little stone in a low voice. All went to the front. Su Luo's heart suddenly shuddered. For a moment, she seemed to understand something. Along the way, don't you wonder why there were so few soul flames? The chill in the little stone's eyes were worsened. Is it all concentrated in the front, and then it will block me? Su Luo guessed faintly that if it was true, it would be a disaster for her. If you guess correctly, it should be the Huangquan River in front of you. Little Stone's look condensed, serious like a statue. There is a bridge on the Huangquan River, called the Soul Bridge, a bridge built by the flame of the soul. Su Luo was surprised. Look, the little stone pointed to the flames not far away and sighed. I also hope that I guess wrong, but the facts are in front of you. You can see it for yourself. After the little stone said this, he remained silent. That you're tuning in to the Romance Rendezvous YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.